Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Force Tech Talk. Now, you might notice it looks a little bit busy today. We're trying out a new format, so bear with us. It may work, it may not. But from the previous podcast, we've got a few questions that always get sent in, and we thought we'd get a few of us together, kind of potluck, throw them in a bag, pull them out, and throw them to whoever we think is best to answer it. So...
Oh, it should be scary.
If everybody's up for it, we'll
go for it.
Yeah. We'll go for it.
See what happens.
So I get the bag. Obviously, it's a Force branded bag. It's got to be. Okay, so why do suppliers give very short or unclear end of life notices? Who wants to do that, Karen?
I can do that. I think things have changed over the last few years. Things have changed, and notices are getting shorter. In the good old days, when I started in the industry, the semiconductor industry was a lot more stable, and there was a lot more planning going on. There was a lot more factories in the world. There was a lot more manufacturers. I think as everybody's been bought over and merges, and this has been bought and this has been bought, there's a lot of mergers, and then people decide, or manufacturers decide, they're not going to make that chip, and it literally is a 6-month decision, and then they would sometimes take the factories down. I think also, and there's been a real problem, and I'm not knocking distribution here, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of feedback for this, but sometimes distribution don't act the quickest they could do. Right. They get the last time buys in from their franchises, and it takes a little while to filter through their system. I know many years ago I keep saying many years ago because you're all young, but in the defence industry, a lot of the big guys, and I won't name names, only kept records for 5 years. So if you were in the defence industry and you've been using this part 10 years ago and hadn't used it for a while, you never got told anyway.
Yeah,
and
5 years is crazy.
Yeah, and it wasn't until the very last minute that you realised you needed the goods when you rang the distributor and said, oh no, the last time buy's gone. And also the other thing is, it's a kind of a little bit testing. You know, the manufacturers test whether or not it's worth making a part end of life, because what they need is the orders. So they make the notice out, and they see how many orders they get in, and then they decide whether or not, oh, God, actually, people do use this part, we'll just keep making it. And then they change their minds. So that's my take on it.
Okay. Alrighty. What are the biggest engineering mistakes made when reacting to obsolescence under time pressure? Engineering, I'm going to...
This question.
Yeah, that's what the
biggest mistake. So, I mean, sort of... I think it's snap decisions, certainly from what we've seen in terms of, I guess the biggest risk is, counterfeit. I mean, if you're screaming for parts, you've got multi-million dollar projects sitting there that you need to get out and moving, and you've got an inbuilt quality, standard that you've worked to. Some customers sort of, it's they only buy from franchise, and that's a hard and fast rule, and then they start having to deviate from that and go out to non-franchise sources. That's when you do run the risk of getting counterfeits onto your systems, or spending a large amount of money buying components in. The only other risks that I can sort of think is that you just rush something through. You don't think it through. Maybe you move to an alternative part that doesn't get qualified and approved correctly. You try and skip a qualification step, and just try and sort of qualify the end board rather than sort of making sure that the individual semiconductor itself is meeting your relevant quality standards and qualification standards.
It's panic, isn't it?
But it's just pressure, It's it's the standard thing. You get project managers putting a huge amount of pressure on engineering and assembly to get stuff done, and buyers, and it just it flows downhill, doesn't it? So it's sort of
It's the classic, when do you need this? Yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're all always asked, isn't it? It's too late when it comes to us.
Yesterday. We missed the last time by notice. What options do I have?
That's one for you then, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, missing the last time by notice. We have heard it happen. I think, like you say, if it goes through distribution and people aren't keeping on top of that themselves, they're relying on kind of third parties or platforms to do that, then it can get missed, and we have heard that happen. I would say engage with your approved supply chain. Don't deviate, like we were just discussing. Engage with solution providers that can, if they're not the ones providing a solution, they can at least guide you in the right way, maybe kind of act in a bit of a consulting way. You will likely have options. I think that's the thing. People panic. They see, oh my God, we missed it. Redesign or go out to the grey market and buy something that's a bit dicey. I
mean, if it's just been made obsolete or end of life, then there's probably some stock floating around there that you can. But then, you're probably competing with multiple other companies who've, if an OEM has not been putting out good end of life notifications or that kind of thing, or you just happen to have missed it, then you're competing against every other company who's done the same. And you're going to get gouged on the market by distributors who've, understandably so, see that there's a couple of thousand pieces left and the price of that times tens, and then someone's really stuck. So but I mean, that if you can buy and bank some material.
Well, that's what we said about supply chain, isn't it? I mean, we've talked about this before. You need to get close to your supply chain. You need to have supplier assurance. I've spoken about this many times because, if you start trolling the world for the last lot of stock, all it does is it just puts the price up. And it just makes it inflated.
Knows what you're doing,
and it doesn't help the market. It doesn't help the semiconductor market at all.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, there are generally always options. It's rubbish if you miss it, but there are options. What is the difference? We get this one all the time. What is the difference between a form-fit function and a one-to-one replacement?
Yeah, the form-fit function's generally something. So, like for example, if we're doing a device, it would be classified as a form-fit function. Because it meets, all the dimensional requirements to get onto the customer's PCB. It meets either 100% or 99% of the original electrical parameters, or has slightly better performance. So the customer's making decisions there that still need to be reviewed and qualified. A sort of one-to-one or absolute direct would be, in cases like the original 5962 DESI numbers, where you've got, 4 or 5 different manufacturers who are qualified on the original part drawing. So that you can freely take another one of those. So if you can't get, the original Atmel one that was on there, you might be able to get, AMD replacement or Xilinx cycle replacement or something along those lines, where it's pre-qualified. They all meet the same overarching drawing. That you can just order it as a slightly different number, but it's on the same overall spec.
Okay.
And that you can just drop that in as long as you've got the relevant traceability standards for buying that material.
The DESI number's the same. It'd just be one DESI number but different manufacturer.
Yeah. So you'll be buying it under that, but I mean, but then the overall sort of, you could even buy it as the OEM part alongside that, because if you're buying a memory device from one manufacturer, but they're all, and there's another memory manufacturer on that original 5962 drawing, you could even order it as the original OEM part number and know that it's going to be a close, identical functional replacement in terms of how it performs on your board. So,
Nice.
These are some good questions these customers keep sending us.
It's people that watch the podcast. We really appreciate the questions. Please keep sending them in. I know Eda's going to love this one. How do I balance just-in-time principles with the reality of a platform with a long life cycle and systems that include components that go obsolete quickly? Just-in-time principles.
Yeah, I'll focus on just-in-time. It's longer than a year since I started working for Force Technologies, and I had to adapt my brain, my lean thinking way to our reality. And I know that it's impossible to consider just-in-time, consider a lean system, because loads of these systems our customers have, they are 30 years old. So we cannot consider that they would do buy what you need. They must buy things that they need to survive, to keep, so they can survive or make the system survive for another 30 years. So just in time is impossible to the whole system. What we try to do at Force Technologies is keeping our systems smart enough, efficient enough, so we can react straight away when they come to knocking our doors desperate for parts, and we can deliver the best quality at the best time and very competitive cost as well. So that's our focus.
Well, that's why we're doing the storage, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're investing all this money in storage, because we will get to a point where we could do just in time on the standard products, because we've got the die there, we'll have the packages there.
Oh, we definitely could. On
Our
the
manufacturing
standard
assembly is about, I think, 6 to 8 weeks, tops. So we will get to a point eventually that we can do that, and you're right. We're not there just yet, but we will do. We're working very hard to get there.
Yeah. So efficiency is the word for me. Try to make our system efficient enough to react as soon as possible and deliver the best service to our customers.
Well, I mean, I guess in our market, the leanest the customer could be is having a really good idea of their forecast. Because if they know they're going to use 2,000 over the next 10 years at a minimum, then they can at least buy that in, store it, and get it at the best price, lock it in early, and then so they're not, 5-10 years down the line dealing with price increases and things like that. So, yeah.
I feel like recently, like some of the discussions I've had with some customers, I don't know if it's just because we've worked with them for so long that they know the kind of information that we would need to provide them with the best product, the best service. But I feel like recently, if we ask a customer, okay, what's your EAU or what's your quantity over the annual period and how long, some of them are coming back really kind of quickly and like, this is it. Whereas it used to be, I don't know, we'd have to check, we'd have to ask the end customer. But it feels like recently there's a couple of projects that spring to mind where they just know what it is. And it's very helpful.
On the other hand, you've had a customer who they're going to need more. And they flatly say, no, we just need this. So we've taken a chance and bought the die anyway.
I know.
So the die is sitting there, not because they wanted us to, but because we know they're going to need it. So, I mean, we do that quite a lot.
Yeah, it's a dance. It's always a dance, isn't it? It's like, you know you're going to need it. We know you're going to need it. But if your system's saying no and your end customer's saying no, then you can't. They can't. But
tough situation.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
I think we're out of time. I think we're gonna have to do another one of these because I feel like we have more questions. So but thank you. Hopefully the format worked, but thank you for tuning in, and we'll do another one. Stay tuned.